Chris was a boyfriend I had tricked into dating me. He couldn't hear. My favorite thing back then was to pull off his hearing aids in the middle of our lovemaking and whisper filthy words against his ear. Until the day I discovered he was actually the heir of the powerful Hua family. So on the night we broke up, things got ugly. Chris's eyes were red as he told me to get out. And I did. I didn't dare return to Beijing until 3 years later, when news of his engagement reached me. Chris's expression was as cold and unreadable as ever. Then he turned around, wrapped a belt around my wrists, and said, "Running again? Where do you think you're going this time?" "My fiancé." I lowered my head and pretended to adjust my camera. My palms were already damp. I hadn't expected to run into Chris Hua this quickly. "President Hua, don't be fooled by how young Joyce is," Chief Editor Ren said, patting my shoulder with a teasing smile. "She's been sweeping up international photography awards for years. I spent a fortune snatching her from Haishur. I guarantee you won't regret choosing us for your first cover shoot." Chris glanced at me with a calm, indifferent look. "Is that so? Then I'll trouble Miss Joyce." Polite, distant, nothing more. I lowered my voice, forcing a deeper tone so it wouldn't sound like the old me. "Of course, President Hua." Chris nodded, offering no additional glance. My eyelids fluttered, my hands trembled slightly. He didn't recognize me. Obviously. I had changed my surname. A mask covered half my face. Just by appearance alone, no one would connect the quiet, restrained Joyce before him with the bright, reckless Jessica I used to be. Throughout the shoot, Chris cooperated flawlessly. One small cue from me, and he would instantly find the perfect angle. Behind me, the staff whispered non-stop, "President Hua's body is insane." I'm literally salivating. No wonder Joyce was poached at such a high price, her understanding of anatomy is too good. Even from the monitor, you can feel the sexual tension bursting out from under President Hua's shirt. My mind drifted. In my memory, the young man was flushed from his neck to his ears, completely naked. I had drawn him many times, yet he was still embarrassingly shy. Well, only at the beginning. Because every single time, the sketch session inexplicably moved elsewhere. The bedroom, the sofa, the bathtub, the floor-to-ceiling windows. And by the end, I was always more exhausted than sketching 10 life-drawing models. I had kicked him in frustration. "Chris, you're doing this again. I'm never drawing you again. I'm finding a new model, one with an 8-pack. Chris had held my ankle without a word. After a long moment, he leaned down and kissed the corner of my lips. "Jess? I'm sorry." I froze. Was he admitting his mistake? About to change? The next second, Chris removed his hearing aids. 4 boxes of condoms, different flavors. I couldn't get out of bed for an entire week. Apologize? Sure. How polite of him. But eventually, we still broke up. That night, we tore each other apart. Chris's eyes were rimmed red, his voice icy. "Jessica, I'll say this one last time, I don't do second chances." I lowered my head and murmured a quiet, "Okay." He clenched his jaw, scoffing. "Fine. Get out. Don't ever show up in front of me again. Otherwise, I'll kill you." During a break in the shoot, I slipped away to retrieve a forgotten portrait lens from the equipment room. A shadow fell over me. That familiar woody scent curled into my nose. I stiffened, forcing myself to turn calmly. "Something wrong, President Hua?" Chris lowered his gaze to me, exactly the same as back then. My breath caught. My fingers dug into my palm. "Don't panic. Don't falter." "Nothing," he said lightly. "Just wandering." His dark eyes glimmered, lips curving faintly. "But Miss Joyce, what are you so nervous about?" I covered my trembling right hand. "The camera's heavy. My hands shake after holding it too long." "Is that so?" I bowed my head. "If there's nothing else, President Hua, I'll return to the set." I didn't wait for his response and walked away quickly. "Miss Joyce," Chris called after me, "if someone who once betrayed you appeared before you again, what would you do?" I paused. Chris and I had ended badly, but it wasn't betrayal. And knowing Chris, if he had recognized me, he would have exposed me on the spot, not acted cold and indifferent like this. I steadied my breathing, turning with a professional smile. "President Hua, I don't know what happened between you and that person, but I believe people should look forward. There's no need to cling to insignificant details of the past." "Insignificant?" Chris chuckled. "You're generous, Miss Joyce. But what if I insist on holding on?" "That's your personal matter, President Hua. As a photographer, I'm afraid I can't be of much help." Chris stared at me, silent. My facade felt paper-thin, like he could tear through at any moment. A long beat passed. "True," Chris finally said, smiling coldly. "Just a photographer." The shoot wrapped an hour earlier than scheduled. As soon as Chris left, I began packing up. Megan rushed over, grabbed my arm, and dragged me toward the door. "Jess, hurry. Something huge happened. What happened? My words cut off abruptly. Outside the studio, the platform was covered in roses, with candles spelling out my name in the middle. It was painfully tacky. I had rejected David 3 times. Yet he still refused to give up. Now he had prepared a full-blown public humiliation. No one knew that under my mask, my face was already breaking out terribly. I was allergic to pollen, thank God for the mask. I turned to walk away, but David blocked me, cradling a bouquet. Joyce, I really like you. I'll treat you well. Please say yes, okay? For a moment, I froze. Because I had once said those exact words to Chris. I had been completely, shamelessly attracted to him at first sight. Out of everyone I had ever met, only Chris fit every corner of my heart. A bar model, yet he looked cold, aloof, untouchable. With those hearing aids, he seemed even more fragile and distant. Later, I learned the bar belonged to the Hua family. By then, I was already obsessed. I used every trick, clinginess, deception, shameless persistence. And eventually managed to get him into my bed. That night, I whispered countless sweet nothings into Chris's ear. Chris, I really like you. Chris, I'll treat you so well. Chris, will you be with me? Chris had lifted his head from my neck, dark eyes pinning me in place. You really like me? I didn't have time to decipher the emotion swirling in his gaze. Yes. Really. His voice was hoarse. Then promise me you'll only ever like me. For the rest of your life. Back then, I didn't think twice about the words, rest of your life. I tilted my head up, kissed him, and said, okay. Only you. And only after we got together did I learn. Chris's cold abstinence was all an act. He had more desire than anyone. I loved removing his hearing aids during sex, whispering filth into his ear, shouting freely. He couldn't hear a thing, yet his restraint only made him look hungrier. I had a temper. I was spoiled. Chris indulged everything, soothed everything, endured everything. He made me believe we really could last a lifetime. Until one day. I accidentally saw a photo of Chris with his father. That summer afternoon, Chris's fingers slid gently through my hair as the warm hum of the blow-dryer filled my ears. And just like that, I learned that the Hua in Chris Hua was that Hua. The Hua family. My heart plummeted straight into an ice pit. The crowd shouting dragged me back to reality. At some point, David had already dropped to one knee. Say yes. Say yes. Say yes. More and more people gathered. More voices. More phones lifted to record my humiliation. My second-hand embarrassment was about to explode. I took a deep breath, forcing my temper down. David, A hand clamped harshly around my wrist. Long fingers, cold bones, squeezing until it hurt. I looked up, and our gazes collided. Those narrow, ink-dark eyes were a net, threatening to swallow me whole. Chris's voice was frigid. Jessica. Home. What? Afraid I'll drug you. An entire table of food, every dish drowned in chili peppers. I was the one who loved spicy food, Chris always ate mild. I froze, unable to understand what he was trying to do. And the apartment, the one we once lived in together. Chris had bought it. I stood up quickly. Thank you, President Hua, for helping me out today. It's getting late, I'll be leaving now. Chris lifted his eyes, a mocking smile tugging at his lips. You call me President Hua now? Jessica, you're really drawing a clean line. Since you're back, why not catch up? I lowered my gaze. There's nothing left for us to talk about. Nothing? His jaw tightened, voice dripping with ridicule. Right. After all, even if I died in front of you, you probably wouldn't blink. He stared at me, face cold as always, but a vein throbbed angrily at his neck. I looked at him quietly. Chris, we're adults. There's no need to cling to the past. The past? Chris cut me off, voice turning vicious. To you, I'm just a past? Jessica, you never loved me, did you? If you didn't love me, why did you bother provoking me in the first place? He grabbed my wrist again, eyes dark, voice icy. Jessica. I warned you. If I ever saw you again, I'd kill you. You won't, Chris. I met his eyes. I know you. Oh? Know what? That I'm obedient? Pure? That I listened to you? That I was so understanding? He laughed coldly. It was all an act, Jessica. All of it. Just to please you. Ruthless, selfish, vindictive, that's the real me. I swallowed hard. Chris. I shouldn't have shown up again and disrupted your life. I'll resign tomorrow. After that. Jessica. Chris's expression darkened, his teeth grinding. Sometimes I really want to cut you open and see if you even have a heart. His grip tightened. The distance between us closed, his breath spilling warmly against my skin. Desire flickered in his eyes, sharp and consuming. I struggled hard. Chris, let go of me. Everything felt like a bow drawn to its limit. and then suddenly released. Chris's pupils contracted. He shoved me away, chest heaving with mixed emotions. After a long moment, he curved his lips into a cold, unreadable smile. Good. Well done, Jessica. He slammed the door as he left, locking me inside the apartment. Only then did I realize my phone was still in his car. Hours passed. 3 o'clock. Still no sign of Chris. In the wardrobe, a neat row of brand new women's nightgowns hung in a line, thin, sexy, nothing like my taste. They were meant for Chris's fiancé. He was getting engaged. The Hua family had countless properties. Why bring her here? A sudden bitterness surged through my chest. I slammed the wardrobe shut and went to wash my face. In the mirror, I noticed faint red marks spreading across my neck and collarbone. Then it hit me, David's bouquet. Shit. Not only did he embarrass me, he made me allergic too. The bedroom door swung open. Chris staggered in. The overpowering scent of alcohol flooded the room. I wrinkled my nose. Why did you drink so much? Chris's voice was low and rough. Break up with him. I'll pretend everything between you two never existed. My mind blanked. What do you mean? His eyes were tinged red. What? Can't part with him, he asked with a faint, humorless laugh. I dried my hands. Chris, you're drunk. Chris stared at me. Then the next moment, he yanked me into his arms, tilted his head, and sank his teeth into my neck. A sting blossomed into a shiver. His bite turned harsher. Jessica, if you dare provoke me, then why the hell won't you finish what you started? Why is there someone else? I immediately understood and blurted out, panicked, Chris, I didn't sleep with anyone. I pushed him back. Look carefully, it's not a hickey. It's an allergy. Pollen allergy. His cold fingers traced my neck, inch by inch. After a long silence, Chris asked, then what about me? Do you want me? I froze. Before I could react, he grabbed a belt and wrapped it around my wrists. The world tipped, my back hitting the cold bathtub. I pushed myself up, breath unsteady. Chris, get a grip, you're getting engaged. He turned on the tap. Warm water flowed over my legs. Right. He looked down at me, voice deep and deliberate. So, will you accept my proposal? He paused. My fiancé. I stared at him. The engagement rumor, you released it. How else would I get you to come back? He removed his hearing aids, setting them on the shelf. Jess, I told you. He stepped into the tub, straddling my waist, leaning down. If I ever saw you again, I'd kill you. My mind buzzed. With Chris's capabilities, he wasn't joking. I raised a trembling hand and pressed it between us. Chris, can we please go somewhere else and talk properly? Then I froze. Chris couldn't hear me. The next moment, he pinned my wrists above my head and bent to my ear. As long as you can promise you won't pass out midway, I'll talk. I stiffened, struck by lightning. You can hear me. Click. The light went out. Darkness surged in with the rising hot steam, amplifying every sensation. Chris chuckled softly. I never said I was deaf. Without the hearing aids, it's harder to hear, but someone was always too loud and too shameless. His voice curled through the darkness, dangerous, seductive. I liked it. My face went up in flames. All those filthy things I had whispered before, he had heard all of them. I wanted to run. I couldn't. There was nowhere to go. Cornered, I could only gamble. I softened my voice, eyes reddening, and whimpered pitifully, Chris, my wrists hurt. Let go of me, okay? Chris froze for a second, and the strength in his grip loosened instinctively. That trick never failed. I seized the moment and kicked hard toward him. But Chris caught my leg midair as if he had expected it. His fingertips brushed teasingly across the arch of my foot. Baby, you really should stop kicking people. This time, I'm not letting you run. The world tilted. In an instant, our positions flipped, water splashing against my waist, heat and force crashing over me. Chris pressed my hips down, his palm firm and unyielding. Jess, he growled in my ear, say my name. I bit my lip and turned away, refusing. Chris didn't get angry. He suddenly sat upright. The jolt tore a sharp cry from me, tears welled instantly. Chris, you fucking bastard. Chris's body tightened. He leaned close, voice hoarse against the shell of my ear. Baby, you're beautiful. He really used my old dirty lines against me. Waves surged. Chris didn't give me a single breath of relief. I clung desperately to his back, lungs burning, bright flashes exploding in my mind again and again, every moment teetering at the edge of oblivion. Chris was still speaking, but I could barely hear anything anymore. My bones melted, my vision blurred. So many years, he murmured, lifting me from the tub with obvious satisfaction, and you still haven't improved at all. Hold on tight. If you fall, I'm not catching you. You're leaving already? The bathroom door opened behind me. The scent of shower gel mixed with steam drifted out. Chris leaned against the doorway, water trailing from his hair down his chest, along his waist, disappearing beneath the sharp V-line of his hips. My face went scarlet. I wasn't leaving. Just going to the bathroom. To the bathroom? Out in the living room. Chris strode over and scooped me up. I was wearing his hoodie, barely covering my thighs. I squirmed, embarrassed, instinctively trying to escape. As if reading my mind, Chris pinned my legs still. Don't move. Unless you want another round. I froze like a corpse. Breakfast. I blinked. He could still make breakfast after all that? What? Not eating? Want me to feed you? I shook my head wildly and stuffed a sandwich into my mouth. Silence lingered between us. After a while, Chris asked, "When are you free?" I blinked. For what? Chris slowly wiped his hands with a napkin. To get our marriage license. And the wedding, you can choose the dress first. Next week. I choked violently. Wait. Marriage license? Wedding? Chris gave me a sideways glance. What? Regretting it now? I exploded. Regret what? I never agreed. How could I regret something I didn't agree to? Instead of arguing, Chris calmly took out his phone and pressed play. A recording. Just a few seconds, and my face went up in flames. Stop. Stop. I lunged for the phone. Missed. Almost tripped, saved only because Chris moved fast. That doesn't count. You can't take things said in that situation seriously. Really? Chris traced my wrist bone with his thumb, eyes lifting to mine. But you said you loved me. I took that seriously. I froze, voice cracking. Chris, A voice interrupted behind us. Why are there women's shoes here? Chris, you little, Jessica? Luke stared at me. Then frowned. No, something's off. Chris, don't tell me you missed her so much you brought home a look-alike. Luke, Chris's best friend. I'd met him before. Awkwardly, I said, no, it's me. I'm Jessica. Luke exploded. Jessica. Why the hell are you back? To ruin Chris again. Luke, Chris warned, voice low. Luke stomped. You ghosted him, vanished, damn near broke him. He finally became human again and you. Luke. Chris cut him off. I'll change the door code. He glanced at me. He just comes to crash here sometimes. Guest room. Luke gaped. Chris, are you kicking me out for her? Who else? Should I kick her out for you? Luke sputtered. Brothers are limbs. Women are clothes. Chris nodded lightly. Right. So you're jealous I have clothes and want me to run around naked. The porridge nearly came out of my nose. Since when could Chris say things like that? Chris. I'm cutting ties with you. Chris stood, placing a hand on Luke's shoulder. Luke brightened. I knew you couldn't let go of your brother. Chris opened the door and shoved him out. Ties cut. Bye. He locked the door from the inside. Eat. Ignore him. Luke thumped the door and cursed for several minutes before shouting, Chris. You deserve all the suffering you get. And if I meddle again, I'm a dog. I quietly sipped my porridge. My eyes drifted to the medicine bottle I had accidentally knocked over earlier that morning. Hesitating, I finally asked, Chris, these years, have you been doing badly? Chris stiffened. His fingers tightened around the spoon. If I say I haven't, would you care? My nails dug into my palm, trace lines of pain blooming red. I didn't know how to answer. After a long silence, Chris whispered, if not, then why bother asking? I ran. I was terrified that if I stayed 2 more days, I'd surrender everything again. So I took a month-long job deep in the mountains. Winter nights fell early there. A little past 7, the mountains were already pitch black. I shouldn't have gone down alone, but my assistant had been pulled away by villagers and never returned. With only a flashlight, I began descending the narrow trail. Footsteps rustled behind me. Cold crept up my spine. I gripped the flashlight tight and sped up. The next second, someone yanked the belt of my coat from behind. I screamed, spun around, and the beam lit up a face. The man who owned the house I was staying in. His dialect was thick. Been watching you for a long time. Finally got my chance. I swung my camera and smashed it into his head. He gritted his teeth, spat on the ground, and cursed, feisty, huh? Let's see how tough you are in a minute. He tackled me to the ground. His heavy, greasy body pinned me, crushing the air from my lungs. Regret flooded me. Regret coming alone, regret not telling Chris that I liked him. You fucking looking for death? The man was suddenly yanked up by the collar and thrown violently aside, crashing into a tree hard enough to scatter birds. And Chris appeared in front of me out of nowhere. His fists were streaked with blood. The man on the ground howled, but Chris didn't stop. He didn't even hear him. Punch after punch, merciless, bone-cracking. Chris's face was dark, veins bulging at his neck. He didn't look human, more like a wild, unrestrained beast finally let out of its cage. His eyes were empty, violent, and predatory. The man on the ground struggled less and less. Only then did I snap out of it and rush forward, grabbing Chris's arm. He shoved me away hard. I didn't have time to feel the pain. One more punch and that man would die. Chris. I wrapped my arms around his waist from behind. Stop. Chris, please. His fist froze midair. Slowly, Chris turned back to look at me. The brutality hadn't fully faded from his gaze, his chest rose and fell sharply. I was trembling, eyes red, instinctively scooting back in fear. Only then did Chris seem to return to himself. He pulled me into his arms, patting my back again and again. Jess, don't be scared. I'm here. I cleaned the bloody scrape along his knuckles. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? Chris gritted out. Jessica, I should be asking you, why the hell did you run again? And you ran to a place like this? Are you out of your mind? Do you not realize how dangerous it is? And you came up the mountain alone. What are you, Wonder Woman? 1 against 10? He was furious enough to make me want to cry. I will. Chris frowned. Will what? When you're not doing well. I'll feel bad. The fire in his eyes flickered, contained, but burning. He stared straight at me, Adam's apple bobbing. Jessica, what do you mean? I lifted my head and met his gaze. Chris, let's get back together. But not publicly. No marriage. No meeting your parents. Is that okay? Chris froze. No public relationship, no marriage, no parents. He laughed coldly. So you want me to be your hidden lover? Your mistake in the shadows? Jessica, what makes you think I'd agree to that? I set down the cotton swab, a little embarrassed even as I said it. Well, then pretend I never asked. But Chris suddenly panicked. Jessica. Like he had wrestled fiercely with himself, he finally hissed, fine. Hidden it is. I agree. But you're not allowed to have anyone else. I hate cheating more than anything. I knew he was still holding anger in his chest. He grew even more irritated when I didn't respond. Jessica, why aren't you saying anything? Don't tell me you already. His sentence was swallowed as I pressed my lips to his. Chris froze, then leaned back slightly, lips pursed, eyes uncertain. What was that for? You're not seriously trying to turn me into your side guy, right? You. So noisy. I cupped his jaw and kissed him again, deeper. There's no one else. I only like you. Even if the truth would eventually tear this fragile bubble apart, I still wanted to savor the dream while it lasted. Chris, when the truth comes, will you regret everything? Why have you been shooting that man so often lately? Fresh from the shower, still dripping with steam, Chris wrapped himself around me from behind and complained. Since we couldn't go public, Chris clung to me even more in private. My hands continued editing photos. Because male model covers sell better now. Look at these abs, this V-line. Once I add a bit of shadow here, it'll be perfect. Hey. What are you doing? Chris closed my laptop with a click. I hate you staring at other men's abs. What, do I not have them? Or are theirs better? I turned and kissed the corner of his lips. Who's being a jealous little jar now? Let me put a lid on you. Chris snorted. You think that's enough? Baby, this is literally my job. Just bear with it. He ignored that completely. Especially that Tom. Every time you shoot him, look at the way he stares into your camera. Shameless. Zero male virtue. I burst out laughing. That's called camera presence. Not everyone's like you, looking like you're about to stand up and swear loyalty to the party in the next second. The moment I said it, I regretted it. As expected, Chris's expression darkened. So you do think he's better than me? I quickly pressed myself to him. How could I? I love watching you swear loyalty to the party. What's wrong with that? Serving the people, contributing to society. I hooked my arms around his neck. So don't be jealous, okay? Chris remained stone-faced. Fine. Time to use my ultimate weapon. I leaned to his ear, voice soft and sticky. Baby, jealousy doesn't look pretty on you. Still no reaction. What? Even this didn't work today? I was just about to try something else when. Chris grabbed my wrist, yanked me hard, and I fell onto the bed. Snap. The room went pitch black. His voice came from above me, low, breathless, edged with desire. Jess? I want to see. We were so close the darkness magnified every sensation. My nerves were a chaotic mess. I instantly understood what he meant. But I have work tomorrow. Before I could finish, Chris's mouth clamped onto my neck. What followed was wave after wave, no rest until dawn. And at the end, Chris still found the strength to bite my ear and growl, stay away from that Tom. I can tell he's trouble. Chris. If one day you found out I lied to you, would you still want me? Would you break up with me? Chris thought seriously for a moment. As long as you don't cheat, anything else can be worked out. Anything else, really? I didn't expect Chris to show up today of all days. He was now a major shareholder at the magazine, but he was too busy with Hua Corp to visit often. Tom had just handed me a milk tea when Chris appeared at the studio door. I panicked and refused it. Thanks, but I'm on a diet. Tom had personally requested me as his photographer. His covers always sold well, I couldn't refuse. Which was why, when leaving the house this morning, I lied and said today's shoot was with a female model. Tom waved at me. Teacher Joyce? What's wrong? I snapped back to reality. Nothing. Sorry, what did you say? It was noisy. Tom smiled. I asked, do you have a boyfriend? Yes. He didn't look convinced. But everyone says they've never seen him. He's not in the industry. A bit shy. Teacher Joyce, Sorry. I cut him off politely. I need to grab some equipment. Please get ready, we'll shoot in 20 minutes. Leaving the studio, I headed toward the equipment room. When I passed the fire escape corner, a hand shot out and yanked me inside. Chris wrapped his arms around me from behind, pinning me to the wall. So you can come out. I steadied myself. Chris. I need to apologize about something. Apologize for what? That Tom likes you. I shook my head. I don't like him. Jess, you really give me no sense of security. Chris's hand slid up my neck, voice turning low and rough. Let's go public, okay? We agreed not to, Chris. Jess, what are you so afraid of? Chris, He suddenly lowered his head and kissed me. Breathless, overwhelming. I tried to push him away, failed completely. It was a long while before he let me go. I gasped for air and glared at him. Don't kiss me out of nowhere while I'm working. Got it. Chris only smiled. I checked the time and hurried to the equipment room, completely unaware of the cold, hostile look Chris threw toward the doorway, or the milk tea cup crushed against the corner of the wall. Mom, I got back together with Chris. In the hospital garden, I pushed my mother's wheelchair slowly along the path. Her voice was very soft. Did you tell him you're my daughter? I don't dare to. My mother didn't ask again. We circled the garden again and again. My father passed away early. My mother raised me alone. For many years, she had no one. Until college, when an uncle suddenly appeared at home. He was handsome, elegant, clearly someone with status and background. I was genuinely happy that my mother had finally found someone to rely on. Until the day I met Chris, and saw the photo of him with his father. Turned out, the boyfriend my mom had been talking about already had a wife and children. The mother I always thought of as perfect, had been the other woman all along. Because of her father's affair and her mother's threat on her own life, she had thrown herself down the stairs. Shattering her leg, doomed to a wheelchair forever. I was terrified that if Chris learned the truth, he'd despise me. So back then, I broke up with him abruptly, without a word of explanation. And during our reunion, I was greedy yet cowardly, afraid to peel open that truth. Every day, I held that burning secret against my palm. Every day, I walked on thin ice, sinking silently while fully awake. But dreams, eventually, end. Photos slammed across my face. The table shook from the impact. While mother's well-maintained face twisted into something hideous. Jessica, if you want to be with Chris, you'll have to step over my dead body. Rage. Threats. Warnings. I bowed my head, saying nothing. Until she said, Jessica, don't provoke me. Otherwise, I'll make you end worse than your mother. What do you mean? She leaned close, pushing her wheelchair forward, whispering at my ear, that car accident back then, I meant to kill her outright. Who knew she'd survive? Though with all those organ failures, she doesn't have many years left, right? My rage shot up. I shoved her hard, the wheelchair toppled with a crash. That was the moment Chris arrived. He froze. Confusion. Pain. Turmoil. And the one thing I dreaded most. Disgust. The fire I had been desperately smothering, finally scorched through my palms. Chris and I cut contact completely. I lived by routine, working by day, spending all remaining hours in the hospital. The doctors said my mother didn't have much time left. I had the recording of that conversation. I thought about making her mother pay. But what would that change? If Chris and I both lost our mothers, would that make anything better? One night, I returned home to pick up clothes. The hallway light was broken and hadn't been repaired yet. A dark figure sat crouched by my door. I ignored it, fumbled for my keys, and unlocked the door. Chris reached out and grabbed the hem of my coat. Jessica, how did things become like this? His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't spoken properly in a long time. Why are you her daughter? I crouched down and lifted his face. Stubble. Exhaustion. A man completely undone. I wrapped my arms around him gently. Hot tears hit my shoulder. After a long time, Chris whispered, I can't watch my mother die. Jessica, let's break up. I patted his back slowly, one stroke after another. All right. I agree. Sister. I brought you gesang flowers. Karma ran toward me, handing me the wildflowers with a toothy grin, pulling funny faces. In the city, 12-year-olds could already speak simple English. But Karma could barely pronounce standard Mandarin. Education was scarce here. Schools were few. Most children helped their families herd livestock instead of attending class. 3 months ago, my mother passed away. I resigned. Carried her ashes. Wandered aimlessly. Life had suddenly lost its meaning. If the sky collapsed, I probably wouldn't even flinch. I tapped Karma's nose gently. Why aren't you in class? She frowned. Teacher Sarah is sick. I took her hand. Come on, let's go see her. Sarah had a fever. With limited resources, all she could do was take a little medicine and sweat it out. Never thought about leaving? I poured her a glass of water. Sarah shook her head. I can't bear to. It's pointless. These kids aren't your responsibility. 2 years ago, Sarah had come here as a volunteer teacher. She never planned on staying this long. Yet somehow, she ended up tethered to this snowy grassland. Only by going to school, she said, staring at the cracked ceiling, can they ever have the chance to leave the grasslands and see the world. I had thought she simply hadn't suffered enough yet. That once life got too hard, too bitter, she would naturally give up. People, after all, always put themselves first. Until the earthquake. And Sarah lost her life saving the trapped children. I watched those kids cry until they couldn't breathe. I joined in the disaster relief efforts. It was exhausting. So exhausting I hallucinated Chris standing nearby, watching quietly. But in a blink, he was gone. I didn't leave. I took over Sarah's role. The children still called me Teacher Sarah. Reconstruction went well. Someone even anonymously funded the rebuilding of the school. A real school, not just a patched-up room. I buried my mother's ashes at the foot of the snow mountain. I think she would have liked it. And then, 1 year became many. Some asked me, why bother? These kids aren't your responsibility. Only by going to school, I said, twirling the gesang flower in my hand, can they truly see the world beyond the grasslands. I watched the children grow. Learning to read. Learning to dream. Realizing the world was vast, far vaster than their home. They wanted to leave someday. And I wanted them to leave, too. 6 years later. Early spring arrived, and the snowline finally retreated. I was in the newly built library with the children, sorting through stacks of books. Footsteps echoed at the entrance. I turned. And there stood Chris, framed by the wind, quieter and steadier than in my memory. He didn't approach. He simply watched me from a distance, as though making sure that I was truly doing well. Jess, he asked softly, am I too late? My heart tightened, but for the first time, it didn't hurt. I walked toward him. Not to run, not to beg. But with a calm that had taken years to find. We've both gone far, I said. And we've been apart for a long time. But, would you be willing to meet me again, as if for the first time? The storm in Chris's eyes finally stilled. He nodded, gentle, quiet. Not to claim. Not to possess. Simply the choice two grown adults make. When they agree to begin again.